Hey guys, Marc Silber here. You probably know this, but I'm an author and a photographer in Carmel, California. And I've got a very special guest for us that we're going to jump into in just a second. But first of all, I want to let you know the show is brought to us by our friends at Bay Photo Lab. You know how passionate I am about getting your stuff in print, getting your photos in print, get them off your computer onto your wall. You can get 25% off. These are their specials on fine art prints. This is a really good deal, you guys, because this is archival inks. This is special paper. I really recommend you take advantage of this. You can get 25% off. They don't usually do that, but that's something they've got going on. 10% off on all frame prints. That's really cool because you can send off your prints and get them back framed, ready to go on the wall or send to your clients. And as always, you're going to get 25% off on your first order. So take advantage of that after the show and get some prints made. That's really important. Okay, so our guest today is Luke Ayers. He's an Australian born, self taught professional photographer and filmmaker for over a decade. And he's been working internationally for the past 3 years. He has a growing YouTube channel, which caught my eye, by the way, which focuses on the easiest and least expensive ways to take high quality product shots. And that's what we're going to be talking to him about in a minute. And he also teaches 4 online courses like me. He has a very strong passion to help others learn using simple. Does this sound familiar to you? It should, because this is my approach. And easy to understand methods rather than overcomplicating things just for the sake of sounding learned. Who needs that, right? He says he can be very blunt at times. We'll find out in a minute. And that's the way he likes to deliver his message. Luke, it's awesome. Thank you for joining us on Advancing Your Photography.
Thanks, Mark. Good to be here.
And where are you right now? You are a long ways away.
Oh, you don't want to know. You don't want to know. I haven't been in Australia. I'm Australian, but I haven't been there for 3 years. I've been going around the world and stuff like this. I was in the UK for 2 years, America. Gosh, you ever heard of the country called Kazakhstan? That's where I am currently. So
Amazing.
I've been to some interesting places recently. Yeah.
Through the magic of internet, all the way from Kazakhstan to here we are. I'm in California. That's pretty amazing. Well, listen, here's my first question. What is it that really drives you, that you're most passionate about when it comes to photography?
I like to make beautiful things that are going to have an impact on people. I want something that when someone perceives it, it's not even photography, but it's just like, art in general. If someone perceives something and it impacts them in like a positive way, and you get this effect, it's effect on the person, positive effect. And it can like inspire them. It can just make them, it can uplift them, something like this. I love that. And ever since I was a kid and I first started watching film, I wanted to know how to do that. And the problem was that I wasn't a good student at the same time. So I self-taught myself how to do it over the years. And now I'm quite happy with the results that I can create. And so I like to now teach others how to do it the simple way. And that's it in a nutshell.
Beautiful. Well, you and I are kindred spirits in that regard. That's exactly what my channel's been about, is let's strip away complexity and all the stuff that really doesn't matter down to like gear, for instance. And that brings us, because really you and I both know, a good photographer can take any camera, an iPhone, an old camera, new camera, whatever, and go out and create beautiful photographs. It's not about the gear. It's a tool. It's about what's going on behind the lens more than what's going on. So keeping things simple is what caught my eye. In fact, I saw your tutorial on creating a DIY product shot. Can you walk us through that? That was really cool.
Well, the whole thing behind that is, like, when I was first starting with like product photography, I had no money for good equipment. I wanted to create the best possible result that I could. So, and the thing is that if I can just explain a little bit of background here, it's like I would see this thing would happen where I would buy this new camera because I had this idea that this latest and greatest camera model was going to get me that shot that I wanted, right? And then I would have this thing happen where then later on I would see on the internet, I would see a photo or I would see a video or something like this, and someone had created the exact photo that I wanted, super high quality, with a cheap camera, with a camera that was less than half the value that I'd spent. And it would confuse me because I'm like, what? This doesn't make sense. I have a better camera than this guy. Why is my photo looking worse than his? And so this is how, from a self-taught perspective, I started to rethink, okay, maybe it's not the equipment, maybe it's something else. And then I started to learn things, this whole world of light, because photography is light, capturing the light. Let's
writing,
just focus
right?
more on the light. Exactly, light writing. And so then the funny thing was that, of course, if you're a full pro, you have all the gear and it's great and it's fantastic. But if you're just someone who's starting an Etsy store or an eBay or an Amazon, it's just like, well, I just have my kitchen, How can I get something that looks like those awesome shots in my kitchen? And I was like, well, how could you do that? How could you do that? And I figured out this way, and that's basically what this tutorial was.
Yeah.
And it got kind of popular just because it works. So yeah, let's run through this.
Yeah, give me the
First
rundown.
of all, good. First of all, you need a background, okay? And if it's Amazon or eBay, they usually require just plain white background, okay? The simplest type of background that you could get and use is literally a white piece of paper. But if you wanted to go a little bit better than that, you would want to get a large white piece of cardboard or a sheet of plastic that is slightly flexible. And there'll be some screenshots that show what this looks like. But you want to be able to bend it and curve it up the wall, all right? Now, the point of that curve is that, you notice how with product shots on a white background, they seem to have this amazing infinite whiteness behind it, like it's the Matrix, it just goes off forever.
Yeah.
Having this curve gives the illusion of an infinite whiteness going off behind it without having to have an infinite hallway that you're shooting the thing in. Right. So that's the point of running it up the wall. And you just need a large thing, I don't know, like, in the metric system, it would be like a good size. It would be like 60 centimeters by 90 centimeters. In America, I don't know how you could convert that, but it's something that.
We'll put that on the screen.
Okay, good. Good, but something like that, all right? And that's your background.
Okay.
So you clamp that to a desk and you run that up the wall. That's the first step.
That's cool.
Good. That's the background.
I got to say that's really cool because really, I've seen these infinite backgrounds, but they're usually huge. And what I liked about this was, I never thought about creating a small version of that, because you're right, it all disappears. There's no lines. That in itself is worth the price of admission.
Well, the beautiful thing about products is they're small. All right. If you were photographing a car, you would need these big ones.
The big wall.
Because if you're just photographing a coffee or, some cosmetics bottle, it's like, you can get away with much smaller, and it's easy too.
Yeah.
And cheap.
Cool.
Good. So then, after you've got your background or your space for which to photograph, you need a light. All right. And you can get so confused because there are so many lights, so many types of lights, and all this fancy stuff, and marketing can get you very easily confused, because I was so confused first. All right, but I've whittled it down to two things that are important if you're literally just shooting this in your own home. And one is, all right, let's just say you use a household lamp, a household light source. The two rules are basically, one, make sure the light bulb is as bright as possible, and two, make sure that the color of that light is white.
Right.
Because you get lights that are a bit warmer, lights that are a bit cooler or look a bit more blue. But in the middle of orange and blue is this good whiteness. And if you search light bulbs, you will see on the packet, it should say white. If it says something like warm, then stay away because that means it's orange. If it says cool, stay away because that means it's going to be too blue. but white. A white light bulb, highest wattage that your lamp that you're using will take, and that's what you need, okay? That's your light source. And it can be super cheap. It can even be a desk lamp.
Do you specifically want a fluorescent light?
Well, when I first started talking about this, fluorescent lights were the way to go.
Yeah.
Now LED
Right.
is what I would recommend. LED is the future, man. It is awesome.
Yeah.
They can be much brighter. They're a lot smaller. So yeah, LEDs is great. So you have your background and you have your light source. The thing about photography is it's all about light. And the thing that really sets apart the professional who knows what they're doing and the amateur is basically what the heck the light is doing. And the simplest way to break this down is that there's two kinds of light. There's hard light, which is what a bare light bulb is going to shine. You know, you put a torch or a bare light bulb, you shine that and you get it. It certainly lights up things and it can be bright. But this hard light means that it gets very, very defined, very strong dark shadows on the thing. And 99% of the time, a product that you want to photograph, or even people or most things, do not look good in this hard light. So basically what you want to do is find some way to change this into what's called soft light. And the only difference between hard light and soft light is basically the shadows. Hard light has very strong, defined, sharp shadows. Soft light has very soft, milky, like faded shadows, and it just looks ooh. You notice how a person, they tend to look better in photos on an overcast day than they do with the sunshine straight in their face.
For sure.
Like that. This is just hard and soft light. So anyway, but the point is, okay, and in the professional world, you see the photographers with these big soft boxes, and that's what creates the soft light. You know, and they can be massive, expensive, blah, 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 blah. But how do you create that at home? Okay, good. So there's millions of ways to do this. One way is literally get a shoebox, the lid of a shoebox, and you want to cut it out, and then you want to get from your kitchen. There's different names for this. In America, I believe you call this parchment paper.
That's right.
In Australia, we call it baking paper. In the UK, they call it grease-proof paper. It's basically that white paper that's sort of translucent, that you can sort of see through, but not really, that you bake your cookies on. You want that paper. You want to cut out the top of a shoebox lid, and you want to just literally, just with tape, just tape this thing over the top. And then look what happens when you place this little window of translucent paper in front of a bare light bulb, and you see what happens to the light when it shines through that. You place an object on your background, you place your lamp just off to the side, and you place this makeshift window in between the light and the object, and what it does is it effectively makes the hard light convert into soft light, and you will see an immediate difference on how your product looks, and it usually looks 12 times better. All right? That's the first thing to do.
I love the simplicity of this. You don't have to go out and spend a lot of money on fancy equipment. You do this with a shoebox and parchment paper, which I never even thought of. It's right in your own kitchen. Easy, simple, inexpensive.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I had to keep things cheap when I was starting out because I didn't have the buck to do these things.
Yeah.
So I would like, okay, well, that's what the professional's using. Could you do basically the same thing with what's in my kitchen? And I just experimented and it worked. You know, hey, you know, obviously a professional thing would do, you know, a bit better job, but it's like for no money, hey, it's not bad at all. So do it. If you got enough. Good. So that's your main light that's going to be shining on the product, and with this little setup, you will get soft light. Now, the other thing to do is that, okay, you've made the light soft. Now, you will still notice that there will be a shadow on the product. And if you look again at examples on Amazon and these websites, you know, you don't see a shadow casting. It might be, you might have a soft shadow now casting, but what if you want no shadow? What if you just, good. So then what you need is basically, in photography, it's called a reflector. It would just be something that's going to reflect the light. If the light source is coming from this side, then you want something on the other side of your product, which is in the middle, to bounce back the light so that you don't even need more than one light. You can get away with one light.
Right.
And it's going to light up the dark shadows. All right. And literally, when you fully understand what light is, it's just kind of like, okay, I want some white light coming from the other side. Get anything that's white. Get another shoebox, my friend, that's white. Place it on the other side. All right. And you will have, with a shoebox, a lamp, and then do a little background, you will have this ridiculously impressive looking $0 thing that any product you just pop in the middle of these lights here, it's just going to look 10 times better.
I mean, this is what it's all about, right? The simplicity of using easy tools. Like one of the photographers I've interviewed a lot is Bob Holmes, and he talks about using a newspaper for a reflector. He's a travel photographer. He doesn't want to travel with a whole bunch of equipment. So he gets some kids, he pays them, to hold the newspaper up as a reflector. And another idea is you can wear a white shirt yourself, and that bounces back on your subject, when you're photographing them. So there's lots of ways to reflect light. You think about
all
it.
That matters. All that matters is what's inside the four corners of your photo frame. It doesn't matter what's reflecting that light. If it's making that link look good, it don't necessarily matter what you use to do it. It just matters what is being seen by the camera. Yeah.
Well, Luke, is there any other tips on creating these product shots? Anything else you want to cover, or does that pretty much cover it?
Well, this would be, I would say there's a second part to this, because the first part, and what I've told you, that's it, Facebook. That's it. You start snapping with this sort of thing, and you've got decent light, you've got a decent background, you can take decent shots. There is a part two, which I won't go into, but that's the editing side of things. And with editing, you can literally enhance it way further and get it to that final look. But that's a whole tutorial in itself. But literally, if you understand this setup plus editing, and you've had some practice, you can. I've tested this as well with a cheap. I'm not even talking about an iPhone, but a cheap $200 smartphone. Taking photos with this, using this setup, and then going into Photoshop and working some magic there. Oh man, the difference is there isn't much difference from a distance. There is much difference. Obviously it's a phone still, but yeah, you can do a lot. You can do a lot with a little.
Beautiful. And you're leading me to the thing I want to let you guys know is I've asked Luke to be a guest host through the month of July. I'm actually going to be traveling the entire month. I will pop in here and there, but Luke has graciously offered to be your guest host and bring you some of these other tips. That would be a great idea if you could do the editing tip version, for instance, of what you do in Photoshop. And I like this whole theme of let's simplify photography. Let's make it easy. Let's reduce the cost and the barriers. And now we can get down to the real point, which is you with your eye and how you create and how you in the case of photographing people, portraiture, it so much relies on what you say to your subject and how you interact with them. So we get away from all the other stuff that really just complicates and down to the simplicity, right? That'll be fun. Well, Luke, thanks for joining us, and thanks for joining us through the month of July. So you guys stay tuned. He's going to bring you a lot of cool things. You can really jumpstart, kickstart, take your photography to the next level, and find some simple ways to accomplish maybe things that seem really hard in the past. Thank you, Luke. Yeah, same here. And we'll be seeing you around advancing your photography. So guys, that's what's going to happen. And try this out. Whether you are a product photographer or not, I think you should test this out because you never know when you need that. And if you do have stuff for sale, this gives you an easy way to make those product shots and show people, showcase your work and your stuff. I'm going to do that. Like, for instance, I need shots of my book. Well, we do that kind of on a digital basis, but the actual book would be cool, in the white background and no shadows and so forth. Anyway, try this stuff out, okay? So as always, I'm going to ask you guys, please subscribe and enable the bell. Don't miss any of these episodes that are coming up. Luke's going to be a great host for you. I'll be around. Don't miss them. Leave your comments, your questions. Luke can answer them too. Obviously, he'll see those comments. So anything you have a question about, just put it down here. If you really like this video, I hope you share it with your friends and people who need to see it, because that's really helpful. And, put your likes in there. That's always nice as well. And last but not least, remember to get out and capture your own images of life. Take care, you guys. We'll see you soon. Be sure to follow your passion and your creativity. We'll see you soon.